Hi, I'm Richard from Early Retirement Wanderlust, and I am out on a solo adventure today. So I am just setting off on a 4-day trek around the Herriot Way in the beautiful Yorkshire Dales. It might not be the best weather, but I'm on my own today, and I am just setting off on the beautiful, although it might not look it at the moment, Herriot Way, which is situated in the Northern Dales. It's an area in our own backyard, but an area that we don't know very well. So it's a 4-day, 52-mile trek. I've set off from the beautiful market town of Hawes. Not looking so beautiful today, to be honest. And you might wonder why on earth I'm setting off on weather like this, because actually, we've got 1 day of rain forecast and then 4 days of amazing weather, so I can't wait. It's going to be quite a challenge doing it on my own, but one of the things that we try and say in Early Retirement Wanderlust is just putting ourselves outside our comfort zone, doing the things that we wouldn't normally do, and just stretching ourselves a little bit. So let's get on with it. I am just so excited to get going. This trip has been in the planning probably since Christmas, since I decided I wanted to do another trek. If you're a long-standing viewer of the channel, you'll know that last year I did the Dales Way as a first trek for me, and it was a bit of a rude awakening. I got battered. It really crushed me. My feet were in a mess. So this trip is all about just shaking things down, learning from that past trip, and getting myself ready for perhaps a longer trek later in the year. But the Herriot Way, fantastic little route, 52 miles, named after James Herriot, the fictional vet from All Creatures Great and Small, and it goes through a lot of the villages of those books. As I said, James Herriot was a fictional vet, and the real name of the vet that worked these areas was Alf Wright, and it's almost like his memoirs. So it's not an area that we know particularly well, even though it is really, really close to home. So I'm just looking forward to the next 52 miles and just explore some of the areas that we don't know very much about. Day one then. We have got about 12.5 miles to go. We are heading over to Keld eventually, and as you would probably expect, the forecast is wet all day. Jackie did an amazing job dropping me off in Hawes. It's not the usual starting point for the trek, but it just worked for us. So 12.5 miles, small matter of Great Shunner Fell. Before we get to Keld, it's Yorkshire's third highest peak at just over 700 metres. It's not too high, but it's enough when I've got this pack on my back. Learning from the last trip, I've gone a lot lighter. Obviously, I've got to have all my camping gear with me, so there's a fair weight in there. And there is a fair bit of food in there, but I'm trying to be canny this time. Definitely going to be using more pubs just so that I can get some decent food down me. It's a real hardship when you've got to stop off at a pub at part way through the day or at the end of the day, but someone's got to do it. You can probably see it's pretty inhospitable up here on the tops, but it's exactly what I needed. Sometimes you just need a little bit of solitude, and since we got back from Europe, Time's been really crazy, and Jackie knew that I needed this time away, and I knew I needed this time away. What is incredible is you get up onto the tops and I haven't seen anyone for seemingly miles. It's absolutely incredible. It's desolate up here, but it always makes you grateful for the things that you've got. So I'm tucked into my little Gore-Tex, and I've got my Gore-Tex bottoms on, and I'm almost in my little cocoon at the moment, which is wonderful. And you know, other things, it could be worse. The wind and the rain could be in my face, whereas it's just blowing me along. I'm quite happy, just trotting along, and we'll see how we go. Now the weather might be particularly rough, but it's never too early for a dad fact, and some of these paved ways across the moorland are put in place to obviously preserve the peat and preserve the moorland. But did you know that they were reclaimed from old redundant mills, and that if you look carefully at the stones, sometimes there's holes drilled in them where the machinery went? Great use, great dad fact. Pretty wild up there. I'll apologise in advance for the filming. I'm really struggling to keep the camera kit dry and the lenses dry, and to be honest, I just want to get down off this now. Water's running down the path, but definitely the gods are with me, because there's a little bit of sunshine coming, which after the battering on the summit is absolutely, I think, what I deserve. But yeah, I apologise in advance for the dodgy filming and the wet lenses. I know on this channel I'm always banging on about positivity, but that was pretty rough over the course of the last couple of hours. But afterwards, once the storm breaks, I've got this beautiful view appearing in front of me now of Swaledale. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now I know it might not last, the forecast says it's not going to last, but just coming off this hill and seeing that valley bathed in sunshine is just food for the soul, and a reason why I wanted to do this and get out no matter what the weather. I knew day one was going to be horrible, and actually it's been a whole series of highs that I would not have exchanged at all. But you've got to go through the hard times to enjoy the good times, haven't you? That little hamlet that we passed through, and I'm going to have to turn around because of the sun, is Thwaite, and from what I believe it originates from the Norse word Thveit. There's not very much there. To call it a hamlet is maybe a bit of an over exaggeration. I then got a decision to make as to whether to go down to Mooka, because there is a campsite that both Jackie and I have always wanted to go to, which is Usher Gap. If I did that, it would then add 2 miles on to tomorrow's walk, and I don't really want to do that. And secondly, we both want to go to Usher Gap at the same time, preferably in a van as well, so that'll have to wait for another time. So now we're back onto the Pennine Way and heading up to Keld. It's about 5 kilometres, and that's where the campsite is. I'm hoping that there's a pub or a hotel or a bar in Keld. I've heard rumours that there is, but it's hard to confirm that, but we'll see when we get there. We're One of the things that Swaledale is just absolutely recognised for is the little barns that it has, and it has hundreds of little barns seemingly in every little pasture. It comes from the farming methods from the past. Apparently they used to keep the cows in there over winter, so they used to collect all the manure. The manure then used to go on the pasture. The pasture used to produce the feed for the winter that went in the barn with the cows in the winter, and it's just that circle of life. It was very, very clever, because you don't obviously have to harvest and move your stuff. You just harvest it and put it in the fields barn. But they are absolutely beautiful, and they're everywhere. So I've just had the most wonderful pint at the Keld Lodge Bar and Hotel in Keld. It's the only place that serves beer, it's the only place that serves food, but obviously with it being a wet night, they're completely booked out for food and they're not doing bar food. I was absolutely banking on it for a good bit of home cooking, but it looks like I'm going to be on dehydrated food in the tent. The campsite is only about a 10-minute walk from here, so I've got to get all this wet kit on and head off and get the tent set up. I'm definitely riding my luck. I've just come out of the pub and it's not raining, so I've got about 10 minutes to get to the campsite, get the tent set up before it starts raining again, and then I can relax for the night. Of day one already, and firmly ensconced in the Keld campsite. Managed to get the tent up before it started bucketing it down. I've just cooked some tea and it's just rehydrating, so the delights of spicy pork noodles after not being able to get any food at the bar, but that's okay. Keld is a bit of a walker's paradise in the fact that it has two main trails crossing it. So it's got the Pennine Way and it's got the coast to coast, so everywhere gets booked up really quickly. The bottom end of the campsite is absolutely jam-packed with Duke of Edinburgh school trip, and obviously I'm avoiding that, so I've actually gone onto their other field and I've got it all to myself. But it's a wonderful place and it's been a wonderful day despite the weather conditions. I sort of knew a few days ago that it was going to be pretty ropey first day, and we just got to get through it because I've only got a 4-day window to do this trip, and if I can get the other 3 days to be really nice, then that's fine. The revelation was that I kept my feet dry with some dry socks, which I can't believe after nearly 13 miles of just torrential rain. I think it took me about 5.5 hours. I was pretty tired when I dropped into Keld, but it's amazing what getting into dry clothes, having a cup of tea, waiting for your tea does. But that's about me. New tent, really nice, spacious, keeping me dry at the moment. We'll see how it goes, but I'll catch you in the morning. Morning. Well, I'd love to say that was a beautiful night's sleep, but it's been a while since I've slept in a tent, and it was raining most of the night until the early hours, so I didn't have the best night's sleep. Getting used to sleeping on one of these blow-up mats takes some getting used to after a while, but I'm sure I'll just get back in the groove. The tent's a bit of a bomb site. I've just had breakfast, which was porridge and a bit of fruit and nut, which was beautiful, warms the tummy. But all I'm doing now is looking at that pile of wet kit that I've got to put on. I've got to get out of my dry stuff, back into my wet stuff, and hopefully over the course of the day it'll dry off when it's on me. It's not something I'm looking forward to be honest. But a few more reflections on yesterday, because I was pretty tired when I spoke to you last. The walk over Great Shunner Fell, I was just delighted to read the guidebook to say that it has apparently got some of the best views in the whole of the Dales. Didn't see any of it, but
wasn't too disappointed. There was so much wildlife out there. It's a while since I've been up on the moors in that sort of splendid isolation. And there's obviously the grouse, there was birds of prey, there was curlews flying across, and then obviously sheep at every corner. So you never really felt alone, but it was a pretty wild place up there. What I did really like, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this trip, was to just get a little bit of headspace and a little bit of clarity, really, because quite often I feel that I'm really distracted by tech and all of that information that just keeps getting fed into us with modern life. Whereas when I was up there and there was no phone signal, it was just a really, really simple existence of one foot in front of the other. I think it almost helped that it was tipping it down, because I got no alternative. I couldn't just sort of sit down and wait it out, because there was nowhere to sit down and wait it out too. So I just cracked on, and soon we were down in the valley. And then I think, as you saw, nature really did look after me, and the sun came out for a little bit until I went high again, and then got absolutely drenched. But that's all part of the fun of it. Now, some of you may be asking, where's Jackie? But I think she was probably scarred from her Duke of Edinburgh experience. I never had that at school, whereas Jackie went all the way through and got a gold Duke of Edinburgh. But she's done so many expeditions, whereas all of this is new to me. So she can sort of take it or leave it. And one of the things that we set out to do in 2025 was to have some adventures together, but also have some adventures apart. And it's a bit odd. In fact, it's very odd not having my little mate, my little adventure buddy with me. And it's a bit odd not being able to have those conversations. But actually, it's something that perhaps I need to get a little bit more used to. And I think that's why we both set that as a goal for 2025. So today, at some point, I need to venture outside the tent, and we are going from Keld to just a little bit beyond Reeth. So it's about 20 kilometres. From what I believe from the guidebook, the geography is going to be very, very different, and I think we might be starting to get a little bit of industrial heritage. So that'll keep me going over the course of the day. But I think it's time to get packed up, get going, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Was Keld. It is a tiny, tiny village, and I didn't know till this morning that it's actually the highest village in Swaledale. Not entirely sure what records that's breaking, but it is a stunningly beautiful little hamlet. Its origins lie in the 17th century, but it got a huge amount of wealth during the lead mining era, which hopefully we'll see a little bit more of today, which explains why there's a couple of chapels and a school within the village. Interestingly, the story behind the pub, in the 1950s, a temperance society bought the village pub and shut it down with immediate effect, and it's only about 20 years ago that the pub that I went in last night was allowed to open. But an absolutely beautiful place. It's a crossroads to the Pennine Way and the coast to coast. There's loads of walkers, and it's just a very, very pretty place, particularly at 7 in the morning. First stop of the day at the aptly named Crackpot Hall. What more of a Yorkshire name could you actually get? It was actually a hunting lodge, and if you're going to have a hunting lodge in the 1500s, I think you'd have it built here, wouldn't you? Apparently the local lord was into his red deer, so had a hunting lodge built up here, miles from anywhere. As we go on today, the geography has definitely shifted from the open moorland of yesterday to, again, moorland, but moorland that's been scarred by the lead mining industry that sort of gave way, I don't know, probably 100 years ago. It's left so many scars on the landscape, but so many historical places as well to discover. So hopefully that'll keep me going over the course of the 20 odd kilometres. What a difference a day makes. How can 2 days be so different? That was quite a hike up out of the valley. Garmin's saying 300 metres of elevation. We've left behind all the historic artefacts of the lead mines, and we are now up on the moors, and it's absolutely beautiful. Jackie's favourite time of year. The heather's coming out, and it's a different sort of industry up here. It's all set up for the shooting grounds, so I've seen so many game birds running around, and they're just not bothered. I'm not quite sure where we're going now. I think we're descending back down. I'm looking ahead, and I think there's some old lead mines. The discoveries on this walk just keep on coming. We are at Blakethwaite smelting mill, and the ruins that I'm studying at the moment are where they used to keep the peat for the smelting mill. It is quite an incredible place. It's in the middle of nowhere. So where did the people that worked here come from? It is quite incredible. So I've dropped down from that beautiful moorland scenery into just some of the best industrial heritage I've seen for quite some time. I find it hard to believe that at times I am actually speechless, and this is one of those moments. The Old Gang lead smelting works. On the way down off the moors, and you stumble upon this, the infrastructure that's here. You can see everything right from the top where they brought the ore down right into the smelting works. It's just an incredible piece of history, and I obviously love all of this. Go on. Go on. Go on. What a day that was. I hope you can see from the images that the light conditions were perfect, the weather conditions were perfect. It really helped my mood. It took me forever to get around because there were so many things I wanted to capture for you and put into the video, and I hope I've only done half as good a job as I actually wanted because there were so many amazing experiences. Today had it all. So we'd got wild water, we'd got waterfalls, we'd got the high moorlands, and we'd got a healthy dose of historic past. And then let's talk about Reeth. To be honest, I was absolutely cooked when I arrived there. So 20 k's in,
My feet were killing me, I was really hungry and I couldn't find anywhere to eat. So I got a little bit of footage of the village. Obviously it's a quintessential Dales town. It's been there since the time of the Domesday Book. Its Anglo-Saxon name is Reeth, and it's a beautiful place to visit. I only wish I'd spent a little bit more time there, but hunger was of the essence, so I carried on and I ended up here at the Youth Hostel Association, Grinstead Lodge, and what a find this was. £10 a night to camp in this idyllic location. It's got showers, it's got a drying room where I could dry the last remnants of my kit from 24 hours ago out. It even has a restaurant, and I was going to nip down to the local village and go to the pub, but they had a burger deal, burger and a beer for 13 quid. It does not get much better than that. So I've just had a hot shower, I've stuffed my face with food, and that's me for the day. But I'm going to leave you with one reflection I've been thinking of a lot today in terms of the walking process and the trekking process and how it just really simplifies life. I got up this morning and my first thought was, where am I going? I then had to make sure over the course of the day that I stayed on track, that I fed myself, that I watered myself, that I looked after myself, particularly my feet, and looked after my kit, because I spent most of the day trying to dry kit out every time I stopped. And then I came here, found a campsite, and I've had some food, and I'm going to go to bed. And then the whole process starts tomorrow. Where am I going? What am I going to do? And it's just really almost cleansing of the mind. I'm absolutely enjoying it, and I'd advocate it for anyone to give it a go. But that's it from me. I am going to turn in now. I'm really tired, and I'll see you in the morning. What you doing? Hey, you monkey. Morning, and what a morning I've had. I woke up quite early, I don't know, just before 5 o'clock, to the most incredible sunrise and cloud inversion in the valley. I've just packed away now, I'm all ready to go, and I'm looking down and there is cloud coming in across the valley. The sun is cracking the flags, so it's going to be a hot one today, and I'm just really excited for it. It was a bit cold in the night. You need to know that I'm doing this absolutely on a budget. So most of the camping gear I'm using is from probably 20 years ago when I used to go backpacking with Luke. Everything's a little bit clunky. My sleeping bag is very, very lightweight. So I think I had every item of clothing on in the night because the temperature dropped. Whereas now I think I'm going to be sweating like a pig because it is just absolutely beautiful. But no matter how cold it gets, there is nothing better in a morning than lying in your sleeping bag with the tent doors open and a cup of coffee and just watching the world go by. I did have a little visitor. I think it was the local hen decided that they were going to have a go at my breakfast, but came to say hello, and it's not something you'd necessarily expect when you're lying in your pit just slowly waking up. So today, slightly shorter, heading over to Castle Bolton over the moors. I think there's going to be a lot more of track walking, but it's meant to have super views down all the dales. And then going a little bit further on, not quite as far as I wanted, but the campsites are quite limited when you get into the lower valleys. So I am looking, fingers crossed, for a campsite in Redmere. I haven't been able to make any contact with them, so it's a suck it and see and hope that they've got a place for me tonight. But that's it for now. It's nearly 8 o'clock. Get the rucksack on my back and let's get going.
Recall I said about all those amazing Dales views from the moors? The clags come in, and it's a really bizarre one because it's actually really warm. So yeah, I think the most I'm going to be able to show you so far is going to be little bits of heather. How amazing was that? It's really good that the shooting estates leave these shooting huts open, or at least you can get access to them. And imagine it'd be an absolute godsend if the weather pulled in, but just a little bit too early for me to have a break, so I'll keep pegging on. That's just about 10k down and we're right on the tops now, so we've said goodbye to Swaledale and we are going to say a good hello to Wharfdale, which means that Hawes and the ultimate end of the journey is getting that little bit closer. I'm not going to lie, that last 3 kilometres was pretty soul destroying coming off the tops. I think sometimes you just need a little bit of inspiration, and there wasn't any history, there wasn't a massive amount of geography there, it was just 3 kilometres of gravel track, which pretty much broke my soul. But we're here, we can have a rest and a sit down and a chat. So this is Dent House, seemingly a bothy that you can stay in. It's got a little fire, and I think it's provided by the estate just to keep people safe. It's absolutely spotless and a little bit echoey, but very, very cute, and a nice place to sit down and just have a drink. Got decision time to make now. By my reckoning, I'm about 4 kilometres, maybe 5 kilometres from my planned campsite, and it's only 12 o'clock, so I could push on, but if I do choose to push on, I've got to go beyond Aysgarth and I've got to get into Aysgarth, which is a considerably bigger walk than I was actually planning. Today was meant to be a short day and then tomorrow was meant to be a long day, but if I feel like I've got it in my legs, I mustn't stick to my plans, I must just go with how my legs feel, but I've got a bit of thinking to do over the next few kilometres or so. Right, I've been deliberating this for the last half hour and I don't know why I'm so indecisive. Made the decision, it's 1 o'clock now, so I'm going to come off route and go and have a look at the campsite that I was planning on staying at. But my gut reaction is it's a little bit too soon to stop. Then I'm going to go and find the village pub, have a sandwich, rest my feet and see if I've got another half day in me. I should have, because it'll make tomorrow so much easier, but it's beyond my 20 kilometre limit and I don't really like doing that, but I'm going to go to the pub, make a decision then. Well, in the end, with all my procrastination, I think the decision's been made for me. Just had a cracking pub lunch at Redmere, and during that time I did a load of research on the internet and it doesn't seem that there's any campsites between Aysgarth and Hawes. So even if I wanted to push on, I couldn't push on all the way to Hawes. It's just like a double day that, so far too much. So it looks like I'm going to be staying at Aysgarth. It's about 5 kilometres away and we've got Aysgarth Falls before we get there, which will be pretty good. I don't know. I feel that it's going to be really expensive and I don't think it's right that backpackers have to pay an awful lot. For me, the fair value seems to be £10 a night, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more than that. But Hobson's choice really. If I need somewhere to sleep, then I've got to pay it. Don't know what's giving it away, but I'm not sure whether the farmer's particularly keen on having this public footpath going through his land.
a really good day, and I think as predicted, I'm in Aysgarth and I've got a pitch for the night, and it was £20, and it was really welcomed because it was a 16-mile day, which is just a little bit beyond the edge of my comfort zone. So I was tired, I didn't have another 3 or 4 miles in me, and there was nowhere to go anyway, so it was ideal really. I've just had the most amazing hot shower from a rain head shower. If I was doing a different video, it would feature in Rate My Shower and it would score really highly, but that's not for this video. So the story, I was going to go out for tea, but the local pub has shut. Unfortunately, the landlady passed away, so the local pub is shut. The next pub is half a mile back where I've been, and I don't really want to do half a mile walk and half a mile back. So I had a cunning plan, because there is a garage and a convenience store just around the corner from the campsite that I remember from back in the day. Went there, the garage is shut, the convenience store has altered its opening hours and shuts at 5 o'clock, so I can't even have a can of beer. So tonight's delights, I am having dehydrated bolognese orza, which sounds delightful, and to drink I'm having a litre of fresh water flavoured with electrolyte tablets. Life just does not get any better. I'm sat in a beautiful place, it's warm, it's not raining, I'm going to have some food in my belly. I'm really tired, my legs are aching, and I've got a comfy bed to sleep in, and give it half an hour, I think I'll be asleep. Morning. It's just before 7 o'clock, so I'm going to keep my voice down, but what a wonderful night's sleep. I think the longer you walk, the better you sleep. I mean, obviously you're tired, but I think I'm just getting a bit more used to the rhythm of being in the tent. I really like going to bed early, and seemingly I really like waking up early, so I've been up since about 5 o'clock, but it's quite nice having that peaceful time and that slow start to the day. But we're nearly ready to get going. But before we do that, let's just go through yesterday. There were so many highs from yesterday. Agree or disagree with country sports, that's not really in question, but it's just the absolute beauty of it. And stumbling upon those bothies, absolutely in the middle of nowhere, it was just absolutely wonderful. And talking of wonderful, Castle Bolton. What a beautiful little village. Obviously I just passed through really quickly, and then you wondered why it's called that. And you walk around the corner and there is just the biggest castle I've seen. It was absolutely enormous. And then a little bit for the film buffs out there. Obviously the last few miles we came through Aysgarth Falls, famous for Robin Hood, so I'd got that #1 hit that was going round for about 2.5 years in my head, and the falls were in full flow after the rain we had a couple of days ago, so seriously impressive. But if you are in the area, Aysgarth Falls, absolutely a place to go and see. So today, quite a special day, unrelated to the trek completely, but for a lot of teachers and kids it's the last day of the summer term, and it marks 3 years since I retired, and I can't actually quite work out where that time's gone. But what better way to celebrate it than another long day of trekking in the beautiful Yorkshire Dales. I can't think of a better way to spend the day. Obviously one of the highlights for me today is going to be meeting back up with Jackie. It seemed a while since we've been apart, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her. One of our aims for this year was to spend both quality time together but also quality time apart, and I think I've had that little window that I'm ready to get back to civilization. Yesterday was a prime example when I was procrastinating about where I was going to stay. It's really strange having just your own thoughts to rely on. I never realised how many times I run things past Jackie, and actually yesterday I missed not having a chat with her about it as to where we were going to go and what we were going to do. But it's also good to have a bit of self-reliance and a bit of trust in your own decision making, and to get inside your head a little bit, because I haven't been plugging into the music or anything like that. I've just been really enjoying long days on the trail, walking with my own thoughts. So today should be a little bit of a flatter day. It's still a 20-kilometre plus day, so it's going to be a long day. I'm going to set off once I've had my breakfast, and it follows the river up the valley up to Hawes, and I'm hoping that along the way we're going to catch some really great waterfalls, because one of the benefits of the rain at the start of the trek is that the waterfalls are in full force. So we'll see how we get on.
Got a dad fact incoming. I'm on this nice flat run through now, and it's the site of an old railway. Apparently it was used to link the Settle to Carlisle railway, which is our neck of the Dales, all the way across to the northeast. But it stopped taking passengers many years ago, and it finally closed down to freight in about the 1950s. But it does make for a really wonderful walk up the valley. That was the beautiful village of Aysgarth, famed for also being known as Darrowby, but this is where it gets a little bit complicated because it was the filming location for the first series of All Creatures Great and Small way back in the day. So it does have its Scaradale house, which is where James Herriot lived and worked. However, if you've been watching the modern incarnation of that, that is based in Grassington. I'm not quite sure what they've been doing with the church. It's had quite a paint job. But in other news, I stopped at Sykes store, which is the village store, that had a whole host of baked goods. So I had second breakfast of a sausage roll, and I have got a bit of a treat for lunchtime. But more of that in a bit. Pretty used to narrow roads, but this is getting pretty tight. I would not want to live up here. Wow. Got a lunch and I'm 15k in and I'm absolutely goosed, and it looks like the rain's coming in over Hawes. But sat here, I just thought I'd share with you the delights of the little village shop that I went to, Sykes' store. Not a Cornish pasty, as the lady said, because it's not made in Cornwall. It is a Yorkshire beef and vegetable pasty, which I reckon might be just as good as a Cornish. And then a beautiful sticky iced bun. All the carbs. Dropping into Hardraw, and so is the rain, so I'm definitely not going to go and see Hardraw Force. But if you check out Robbie Rome's video, he's done a cracking one on it, and it's pretty, but not in the rain. And as if like that, 4 days later, we're back in Hawes. 52 miles done, legs are tired. So what I'm going to try and do now is get a little bit of footage of the village because it's not raining, so you need to see how wonderful it is. And I'm going to get a pint, and then I'm going to wait for Jackie to pick us up. It's been a good one, and I will catch up with you for a bit of a summary and a roundup when I'm at home and clean and rested. So that's it. I've just come to the end of my edit, and I've really enjoyed doing the edit, and I've also really enjoyed doing the walk. Obviously it has its challenges, and 52 miles in 4 days is going to be a challenge, but I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the solitude and being stretched and just having to think for myself a little bit, and also enjoyed the amazing countryside, because there is nothing better for the soul than just getting out in nature and having a bit of a wander. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a bit of a monster one from the edit, but I didn't want to miss anything out. I've really enjoyed the whole process, and we'll catch you next week. See you later. Bye bye.